AI can generate really impressive 3D models, but generating is only half of the job. The real problems start when you actually try to use them. Broken mesh, merged parts, bad topology, messy UV, texture artifacts, baking issues, rigging issues, you name it. So in this video, I'm trying different formats. This is not usual workflow video. Instead, I organized all common AI 3D issues into categories, added timestamps to give you a direction how to quickly address and fix any of these issues. You guys asked for it and you were very active in YouTube comments, Discord, YouTube posts. So I hear you out. Here's the video for you. Check the description section, find the problem you're facing. You can watch this video in any order. And if I missed something, let me know in the comments. There will be part 2 as soon as this video gets 2,000 likes. I'm gonna start working on it right away. Let's begin. Problem number 1, AI model lacks details, merges important parts, and it's hard to use it as a clean base. Very common issue. Here, for example, I generate model in triple and we can see multiple layers such as garments and hands, head, and some other parts like do have problems with textures. Parts might be fused and it's very difficult to work. My main solution here is to split it into the parts and generate them separately and then join them in Blender in sculpt mode, for example. That's the best possible way to address that. This is also how classic 3D works. There's 4K texture or like polygon limits, and when you create it all at once, of course there are less details. So here is my example. I just split the same character in some parts. You see there are way more details on the parts. Very easy. At least in Chipo, it's no problem generate parts. It doesn't hallucinate or add anything on top. When that's done, I'm gonna go assemble that in Blender in sculpt mode. I usually create complete base, then I cut arms, head, and replace it with my generated. I do have plenty of videos where I show full workflow, and this is my step 1 all the time. Even if base model is generated nicely, this step basically makes it dynamic and possible to work with it on a professional level. And for example, here we're also gonna do that for legs, and imagine now dress is separated from legs and we can rig and animate them properly, and so goes for the head. And look how much better it looks when the head is generated alone. I think this is a fantastic thing. High poly mesh has holes or broken surface areas that need a clean fix. Okay, that's also quite common if you create some complex geometry. For example, this tail. This one generated with Hunyan. The interesting thing that the same tail generated with Chipo was way better. But let's say we still have to use it, right? So there are holes like this. What we're gonna do, if this is a high poly mesh, the only way to fix that is through sculpting. Working it in edit mode, that will be a pain. So we're gonna go in sculpting, and there is a brush called inflate deflate. By default, what it does, it brings 2 parts together, like basically inflating it, right? So to fix this tail, might be better to just recreate it in better AI. But let's say you have this problem. You basically inflate all of these areas and make sure there are no holes like that. And then we're gonna need to remesh. Let me show you one more example on this beer. And there is a nose hole. If we enable face orientation, you can see the blue color means outside. And because of this one hole, it creates whole inside part as a mesh, so it's like a double-sided mesh. That's insane. We don't need what's inside, right? What we're gonna need to do, we're gonna need to cover that and we're gonna remesh it. So inside is not a geometry, it's just the inside face of the polygons. So we're gonna use the same inflate brush. Okay, boom. So you can see I did that. When that's done, we're gonna go to remesh, choose the right value. In my case, it's like 0.02 meters. Press remesh, and now it recalculates the mesh. Okay, so if we enable face orientation, we see the red from inside. It means that red is the outside face of the polygons, which is correct. Means that inside is no additional layer of geometry. Cool. And now we can just smoothen this thing. So this is how you fix it in high poly. What you do if low poly mesh have holes or open geometry that must be closed before further work. Same as before, but now low poly. Can be holes after AI retopology or optimization, especially if you do that through Hunyan or Tripo or anyone else like that. So here is how you can address it. So first of all, you need to locate it. You can also enable this face orientation in settings to help you locate them easily. When you know this, you can go in edit mode, just need to select some edges and press F. You can do the same thing for different holes, and for example on one place here, when I press F, you can see that there is additional edge going through. So we can select that edge and press dissolve edge, not delete but dissolve, and it will make it nicer. In similar with F and dissolving, you can fix many problems. It's not only about one polygon hole, it works even for bigger holes. What to do if you have two separated low poly mesh and you need to connect them in one solid mesh? Also happens quite often. So what we have here is optimized body and head. I want to merge them. So I'm gonna use pretty much similar options. First of all, let's go to edit mode and select this loop and delete it. I also don't need all that inside part. So how we're gonna do that? I'm gonna select one of them, press Ctrl L or any other options here. That will select everything connected by normal, and press X again. This and delete faces. Okay, now we need to select both of them and make sure all modifiers are removed. Let's select them both through Shift and press Ctrl J. Now this is like one mesh, but it's not connected. And also we need to remove this part that covers the neck for sure. Press Ctrl L, and since I have a seam here, I can delete it like that. It's very easy. We go to edge mode, for example, select two of them, and we can press F again. That will create a polygon between them. And since I have a loop here, we can press F more and it will try to add more polygons on the loop. Since they are not even, that's fine. We're gonna Ctrl Z and we're gonna go manually like this. And in some cases we can connect them like this, so it will be a triangle. After a while, here's the thing, I just connected two parts, even if they are not matched very good by the mesh. Another problem, eyes and mouse are fused into the mesh, making face rigging difficult. That's 100%. And you very much need them separated for eye movements. You usually create an eyeballs, and mouse there must be teeth and tongue, of course. Right now it only works with Tripo really, with their P1 version. There is a dedicated video about face rig on my channel. The whole thing about it is to create dry reference. So we're gonna create face with mouse open like this, and we're gonna create teeth and tongue as well. Or you can actually find some free model on sketch file for teeth and tongue, like it's up to you. We're gonna generate it. See, here is the model I generated. We either need to retopple it after we create high poly, so we get something like that, or we can also use smart mesh. Now with this, we can combine things together and make it usable. So first we're gonna go to the heads. We're gonna select the eyeball. It really does good mesh that you can easily remove the eye, and sometimes smart mesh even created as a eyeball, which is cool. Then we're gonna need to create this sphere. We're gonna position it, we're gonna cut it in half, then we're gonna unwrap it, and I also generated eye texture like this in Gemini, of course. We're gonna create simple material, drag and drop this texture here, go check UV quickly. I do have dedicated video about it on my channel, take a look. So here we go, and then we're gonna add teeth and mouse. How cool is that? Then you add a little bit magic and we can get this sort of result. Okay, how about we can smile like this? A bit creepy, but you got the idea. What you do if model is exported in triangles instead of quads and you need a cleanup for further work, especially if you need it in your professional workflow. First of all, make sure that you export it in FBX. That preserves quads, but that's still not guarantee. Some quads might be tris. So what you can do, you can go to edit mode, you can select it through A, then you press Alt plus J, and that will actually bring quads back like this, where that's possible. So this model, it was generated in Tripo. It's actually a good job. Now the following issue here is that topology can be quite messy and loops might be not perfect and stuff. So here's my way to fix it, and we usually do that actually. So you can see this loop is not perfect. So what we're gonna do, we're gonna select two dots and press J to select two edge and just dissolve edges. With selecting two vertices, you can also merge them by pressing M and merge them at center and stuff like this. you can fix most of the issues in topology. Especially, for example, here in Tripo, you can see it's quite nice and it's not that difficult to create right loops. This is, of course, about the effort. If the mesh is completely messy, maybe that doesn't make sense to do and they regenerate or do it a different way. But in this case, you can do it like that. And here you can see how I just created something that reminds right loop, or at least you can fix some issues before you start to use it for animation and stuff. Overall, I think AI Retopology making very huge progress. Another problem for animation, of course, you need loops on fingers, elbows, knees, and stuff. And here a little bit of professional advice how you can redo that on top of high poly in Blender, or my personal choice is Retopology. So you can of course try to do it the same way, like fixing some topology. But for example, here for the finger, you'll need to add more loops and stuff. Here we cut 2 fingers, and I do have high poly model, and it's very useful to have for this flow to work since it's a good reference. So in Blender for finger, we're gonna just select this loop, enable high poly, and I'm gonna just extrude it with E. Then when it's extruded, I can press S and scale it a little bit, move around with G, and like that, I can extrude it more. And then in the end, I can press M on the keyboard and press Alt Center. And here we go. This is how I created the finger. Of course, for animation, it might be reasonable to add more loops. And when you have perfect loops, you can press Ctrl R and add a loop. Now, more professional way is to use Retopology, at least it's my choice. We're gonna make sure that only high poly and low poly is enabled. Then we're gonna go to low poly and we're gonna enable Retopology mode and press Edit Active. So here you have quite a plenty of tools to actually address this thing. First, it gives you more understanding of like what's happening, how polygons are located. So we're gonna select this loop as well. And with the contour selected, I can just draw the lines like this, and it will add another loop, just like that. This all is also an example that you can create a base in Tripo or Huion, bring it here, fix some parts or remove some parts that are done bad, and save quite a lot of time just redoing manually on top of high poly some parts that need more attention in sake of animation and stuff. But what if AI Retopology removes too much of details? That also might happen. So here's the example. We do have this nice detailed weapon, and here's Retopology created in Huion. You see, like it doesn't preserve that much details, especially like on these parts and here. For props and objects like that, I might recommend that consider a very simple modifier in Blender called decimate. And here in collapse, we can choose the value, let's say 0.5, and we can see the original face count, and we'll basically try to reduce it to 0 to 5% of that amount while keeping UV and texture intact. And here you see, so it's just reduce it like it's to 5%, and here's the geometry. Now, of course, you need to play with value for different models. It's for each model, its unique value, how low you can go while keeping the details. This is like the ultimate solution for props. Next one, let's talk about UV and baking problems. AI UV are messy and needs a fast cleanup. Very often, if you create UV with Huion Studio, that's right now, at the moment I record a video, the only AI UV existing. But for characters, you can see it might give you something like that with a lot of parts extremely stretched. So if we open that in Blender and preview the stretching, you can see this green area means that they very stretched and the texture will be very badly pixelated if you're gonna do baking or stuff. And so here's a few options at your convenience that can quickly address that. First of all, of course, there is a Smart UV project in Blender, on which you're gonna go in edit mode, select whole model with A, and find Smart UV project in unwrap menu. Pretty much basic settings are fine. The lower the angle, the more islands it will create. So here we can see it unwrapped, and you can see the blue color more often. It means that it's not that stretched, but this is very lazy option. The best way is, of course, to manually add some seams and then unwrap it there. So here's how you do that. You select some loops, mark them as seams. They are marked red. In my case, depending on what Blender theme you use, might be different. I have a dedicated video. I think this is the easiest part to learn and get really nice UV. When you have selected all of that, you can choose unwrap angle based. Then we go into the UV and we see way nicer stuff. You see the blue color primary, that's amazing. This also might help you to understand that somewhere you need to add more cuts, and you can go back and add more cuts and re-unwrap. When that's done, you can also do the pack island like this, and this already look quite professional. Now, what is the fastest way to bake textures from high poly to low poly? So I really know only one that do baking in the same way that we expect, and this is modif. Has free plan where you can do exactly the same. So here's the example. We upload an object here. This is the high poly model already. Then we're gonna go to this 3 dots here and choose simplify, and you can choose custom, or you can pre-select some values, and you might see in custom there is a setting to generate normal map, which is by default, which basically means it will bake normal map, and color map is always included. Of course, we can choose the custom amounts, or I'll just choose 10k trees, and after a while, here we go, and we already have this 10k optimized asset. The color map is here baked, and the normal map is exactly the same as on the high poly mesh, which is amazing. This is the fastest, laziest way to do that. What you're gonna do if AI baking in modif is not enough, or you baked it badly. So here's the example of my high poly converted to low poly, and you see there's some artifacts on normal map like this, there and there. I'm not really happy with the result. So I suggest to use either Blender for baking, which is a bit difficult, or I personally really like Marmoset toolbag, even if it's paid. But if you intend to use it, that's really the best tool, removing a lot of headache. So we're gonna export both of them in FBX. We're gonna drop them to Marmoset. Here we're gonna press on the bread icon and create this bake project. Drop high poly to high, low poly to low. Then we're gonna go to bake project, and here in configure you can select which maps you want to bake. You choose the setting of the output map and where you're gonna save it. We're gonna press this P to preview, and here is how cool it bakes a normal map. Amazing job. So this is my low poly model with baked normal map. These guys really know stuff about baking. We can also do the same thing for the color map. We just need to go and select in configure. We're gonna need to select albedo metal, add it here, and let's remove normal since it's already baked. Let's press bake and preview. Here, how cool is that? The only thing, by default it sets roughness settings, so we're gonna just remove them. And yeah, this is the best way to bake it, like as most, or at least best quality. You can do the same thing in Blender, but it might take more time. Another issue you can address with Marmoset is to add or restore depths and shadows with help of ambient occlusion map. And this is a very cool thing. So you might have a model like that, solid color, looks nice, but it's just a color and it really lacks depth. So we're gonna export this head alone. Gonna use Marmoset again. Again, it's possible to do that in Blender, but best possible results for me is in Marmoset. There is a dedicated video about baking where I also show how to do the same thing in Blender. I'm gonna import one model to Marmoset. I'm gonna create bake project again and set the same model, just duplicate it, copy paste, and high and low poly. In maps, I'm gonna choose ambient occlusion, and we just need to select where we're gonna bake it. Nice, the resolution, all that stuff, and we're gonna press bake. I can press this button to preview it right away, and here you see, this is very cool thing. We can also drop that to Blender, and here in Blender we're gonna need to add node called mix color, and we're gonna connect both of these textures and choose multiply. This is how ambient occlusion is usually applied. And here we can control it, like how strong we add shadows. This map is also supported by Unity and Unreal Engine shaders, of course. AI generated texture has a lot of artifacts, problems, imperfections, happens all the time. And for this, I recommend to use modif tool. It's not only about low poly, since I saw some people say it happens after baking. No, that also happens for high poly if it's AI generated. I recommend use modif tool, which is again free. And here when you go into the texture mode, there is a very easy flow to follow. So first we're gonna add reference images here, then select the right reference for the part we're gonna need to fix. So in this case, the chest area. So with this tool, we're gonna paint the area that we are not happy with. Then we're gonna need to add new layer and press generate image. wait a little bit, see the results, and if we're happy with it, we're gonna go choose in paint tool, and then we can paint on top and fix that area. And here you can see it is much sharper right now. We can continue doing that like this, generate and fix it. And you can see it is way more sharper than it was before. Similar way you can fix small parts. I use this tool almost all the time, probably the best one right now. Another thing is that AI generated texture for some areas might be very low quality. So here's one of the example I got. And you can see there's like sort of noise on the texture, on the hand. What I recommend is to try to use upscalers. So for example, on Foley, there's Topaz, Upscale, Image, and I'll just simply drop my texture here. With standard settings, gonna run it. So you can see the noise is definitely removed. So let's go back to Blender and preview the results. Looks way better, right? And this is the quick fix. It also might help to add some nice details. Try different upscalers, they really can be helpful in this case. Now, another case is that you follow traditional workflow and you create high poly, low poly, and after fixes or reworking the mesh, whole texture definitely will not fit. There are options to bake texture, which we just discussed, but you can also just generate it again. In Triple, for example, and at the moment I record this video, this is the best tool for texturing, way better than Hunyon. You can upload your own model like this. We're gonna upload it, we're gonna make sure it faces on us. We can even use original UV, which is amazing because we might prepare a really nice UV. Then we're gonna go to texture and select our original input images that we used to create that character in first place. Or you can use Nano Banana to create textured version of this character that also gonna work. And press generate texture. Here is our boy. Look good. It might be even easier than baking. So definitely try it, use it. And here as well, after you generate color texture, if you're happy with the results, sometimes you're gonna need to give it like 1-2 try. You can use upscale and PBR in roughness and metallic maps. I think this is actually the future flow, really. And last but not least, problems with Mixamo when it says it's unable to rig your character. You might actually pay attention to how you export it, so I recommend to use OBJ format, most stable. And you also need to make sure that your AI generated model is optimized. This model was created from AI generated pieces and not optimized. And there might be like 3 million, 4 million, 5 million polygons. So there is a decimate that you can use and reduce easily the polygons without really losing any details. Or better, to run it through a nice flow. But let's say I'm not creating this for games, I'm creating this for sculpting. In this case, just use decimate. In case you do it for games, you still have to do optimization before rig, and you might not face these problems. Just export it in OBJ and it should work. But let's say you're not game developer, you do it for printing and you just need to pause it after you get the skeleton. In that case, I recommend to use decimate. It will reduce the polygon without losing details, and it also might be useful for printing, so your printing software will not get wild. Okay, so I'm gonna choose the value something like 0.4. In my experience, it must be somewhere less than 700,000 to be possible to rig it. And here you can see it's already uploaded. I will set these markers. And here we go. Our character is actually rigged. You can export it and continue in Blender to do another stuff. Then that was it, guys. Like and subscribe. Let me know in the comments what more issues you do face, and I'm gonna create a next part covering them. See you in the next one.